Hello, I'm Toby Fox from 1.5 million new homes, the local government challenge, sponsored by Redloft and Waits. So we're investigating the role of local councils in delivering the government's national ambition to build 1.5 million new homes. And to do that, I've come to the London Borough of Barking and Dagenham. The council here has delivered more council homes in recent years than any other council through its wholly owned development company called Be First. And in this episode, I'm talking to Anna Sinnott, who is head of consultancy, and Danny Taylor, who's a senior project manager at Be First. So Anna, tell us where we are and what's being delivered here.
We are on the Gascoigne estate. So this is one of the largest estate regeneration projects, I'd say, in East London, and certainly the largest in Barking and Dagenham. Obviously, it's been going on for many years. It's a long process to work with local residents who are sort of on site, and that process of moving people to new homes and building additional homes has been something that we've been working on the whole time that Be First has been together, but also, the council was working on it much before that as well. But it's been really exciting to so rapidly, kind of build, hundreds and hundreds of homes over the last 5 years on this estate, and to see some really high quality public spaces, to see how the site really embeds itself within sort of existing parts of the neighbourhood, and also, build some, lovely new homes as well.
And which part of the Gascoigne estate is this specifically?
So this is what we call Gascoigne West Phase 2. So this is probably the newest part of the estate that's sort of near completion, but we're on site on other phases as well as we speak, and then there's even more that will be coming through the planning process in the hopefully near future.
We've been hearing an awful lot about planning reform recently. The government has ticked all its boxes, all the things it said it was going to do in its manifesto, it's doing or done. So what difference is that making?
Yeah, I mean, it's been really interesting. Obviously planning reform's something that's been talked about over, many, many years. And it's really encouraging to see such quick action on reforming, both at the national level, on lots of that, which is wonderful. I think a lot of it is actually the intent behind it and the emphasis that has been given to that. And that's coming through in appeal decisions as well. So I do think that gives confidence as to the importance and, how key it is to build new homes. I think, as we're all aware, it does still come back to funding a lot of the time. So as much as I think lots of, positive moves in terms of planning, there's still a way to go to get those schemes to come through.
What's your favourite thing that's come through planning reform?
I think probably, and it's not as much of an issue here, but I work across the country, is actually loosening up some of those elements to do with the green belt, grey belt as well, just to consider other areas. It's still very strict, and there's a lot of criteria, but again, it is just that sort of intent and importance, and just really putting it up that hierarchy of issues that planners have to deal with.
And what else needs to change in planning going forward for more homes to be built?
Yeah, I mean, I think in these really difficult times, obviously partnership working and, obviously in terms of funding and joint ventures, that's going to be really important. But I think obviously just that, partnership working and an approach of local authority planning departments, and then working with, people submitting those applications to really, drive things forward, positively approach the negotiations. There'll need to be some flexibility just in terms of, the types of affordable homes and where they're delivered. Certainly one of the approaches we're thinking about in terms of our sort of pipeline is taking a more portfolio approach. So not every site, has the full affordable homes on it, but across the sort of portfolio that can kind of work and overall deliver the sort of requirements that we need.
And that overall being across the borough or across a bigger area?
Across the borough. I think we're also looking at scale and strategically how that works. Obviously, the new towns is an interesting approach. We're sort of very much looking at South Barking, but also the connections, across to Thamesmead, what's happening in Beckton Riverside, the Royal Docks, and seeing that whole area as a whole. And a lot of that really comes down to sort of the infrastructure that we need as well, and really using the kind of ability for, I suppose, public sector funding of infrastructure to unlock homes across boundaries, very much so, because that infrastructure, crosses boundaries. And
So
we
you-
need
so
to
you-
look at it strategically.
For the sake of people like me who just don't know what we're talking about, you build a station in one place, and that means that people in a much wider area than that one place get to benefit from the fact that a new station is there.
Yeah, definitely. And just, all these areas are very interconnected, and it works in a very dynamic way. They're not sort of linear in and out, people move in a variety of ways, and thinking about that and where employment areas might be as well, is really key.
Is there not a danger in that of creating areas of a borough or of a city that have a concentration of affordable homes in them and other areas that have no affordable homes? Is that not just ghettoisation? How?
Yeah, I suppose we're looking at that sort of portfolio approach maybe more across Barking and Dagenham. And a lot of that, for example, here on the Gascoigne estate, we've built a lot of affordable homes. And actually it's about thinking about that balance and whether there's more private homes that are needed in these areas as well. So it's really, I think that's a real issue. But actually looking at the sort of the very local issues and how you might build that sort of mix of homes. And affordability means different things in different areas based on local populations. It's a really unique set of circumstances. And I think, even going back to some of the planning, elements, the GLA sort of published sort of some new incentives to sort of deliver things just before Christmas. And, lots of really positive things, but it's like across London and just the differences are really quite unique. And so, when we looked at that as a team, internally, it's like, the intent is there, and that's positive to open up negotiations and doing things differently. But it doesn't work in Barking, to do with our value, like the values of homes and how that sort of viability sort of fits together. So there does need to be that sort of more nuanced, bespoke approach to actually really unlocking some of that funding to get things moving.
Our viewers, one of our viewers in particular, has written in saying, can you ask councils about the building safety regulator? We had to react to Grenfell. We needed better safety regulations, and the building safety regulator's point is an awful lot of stuff was going unnoticed in building design, building construction, so it really needs to be governed. But that whole process is really holding up development at the moment. What's the story as you see it?
Yeah, the Building Safety Act and, the regulator and the like, it's obviously really crucial and very, very important. No one disputes that. I think the difficulty was just in terms of actually deciding on what some of those regulations were and when second stairs were required. And there was quite a lot of uncertainty that was created, which when you're dealing with something that's so complex and has such a huge impact, really didn't help. We do have a little bit more certainty on that, but I think just, as a sector, the sort of building safety regulator and building control surveyors, they're really under-resourced. There's not enough people in that industry. They've had to make a massive change in the way they're sort of educated and regulated. So that has, it's kind of not been sort of as efficient as I think it could be. So I do think that's a really key thing, given we're in a little bit of a stalled sort of situation at the moment, that we really need to try and sort of resolve that, both from a sort of, resourcing and skills sort of element, but, real certainty on, the regulations and how they're going to be implemented, to not sort of cause, future delays when we need to build, so many homes and so quickly as well.
What else needs to change, Anna, to get more homes built?
Yeah, I mean, I think one of the other things that's going to be really important is, some of those sort of design skills potentially more internally within local authorities. So we have sort of a design team within Be First, and they're really key to all those stages of bringing a application and a development forward, both assessing it from the planning side, but then also in terms of the sort of embedded in a team. And that is very much when you're working with architectural teams, to have someone with the skills and knowledge to be able to challenge, to be able to interpret, and really make sure the design is a quality and an efficiency that we require. And that's something I think local authorities really need to think about moving forward. We also work really closely with our colleagues at the council in terms of their sort of employers' requirements as well. And, it seems a little bit mad that every local authority has a different set of employers' requirements. And one of the things our team is sort of thinking about working on is, whether we can combine with some other local authorities and try and standardise some of that.
Okay. Can you just unpack employers' requirements for viewers?
Yeah, so, it's very much about, when you're sort of setting what your sort of, I suppose, your basic standards are to meet, and whether that's to do with sort of sustainability or, certain specifications of lifts and the like. We need to maybe have a more standardised approach to some of that, rather than, every design team starting again
so are you...
to design and then actually build something slightly different.
Yeah. So are you currently talking to other local authorities about standardising that?
Yeah.
When do you think that might, what's the likelihood of that happening? And over what
I mean,
period?
it's something that maybe, we've got sort of a set of sort of design officers that we're working with from about 10 other local authorities, but also maybe thinking about how the GLA could play a role in that as well, across London approach.
Anna Sinnott, thank you very much indeed for your contribution to getting 1.5 million new homes built.
Thank you very much.
I mean, there is still funding, but it's not completely gone. But what it means is that everything that we do now is we have to involve more competition into the process. So we're trying to push the price point down. With inflation going up. And dare I say it, employers' national insurance going up as well, because that's been pushed back to me, right? Where I'm trying to push down prices, contractors are coming back to me and saying, but actually, Danny, across the whole supply chain, all of our labour costs just went up. So you're trying to push it down and that's going up. So something's squeezing, something's got to give in the middle, which is potentially going to be, well, we're saying their profit. The other thing I need to add into here is our framework. We've actually increased the size of the number of contractors on our framework as well. So the idea behind that is to increase competition, to drive the prices down. But there's only so far, as you've just said, that you can actually drive that price. Because people will go bust and we will be, as you say, again, left high and dry. We've got to be very careful that we don't become this race to the bottom. So there is only so far that you can push it. So we've all got to be very aware that our contractors are making a profit. If they don't, then we're all in trouble. The other thing we've tried to introduce here is bringing our contractors in early. Which is a bit of a change because usually you get an architect here and they'll design a scheme. You get it through to REBA 3, you get it through to planning, and then
I'm just going to interrupt, sorry, REBA 3, that's part of the kind of official Royal Institute of British Architects
correct.
Process in the design of any building, and it's got stages.
That is
Stage
correct.
1, REBA Stage 2, REBA Stage 3. What is REBA Stage 3?
REBA 3 would be when you're actually got your detailed plans to be submitted to your local planning authority. That's where we're at. Okay. So at this point, it's all architect driven. Architects and consultants.
And then you bring the contractor in at stage 3 to say, okay, how do we build this?
And they say, we can't afford to do that with the money you've got. All right, that is the typical
Yeah.
response that you get. And then you go back to the building and say, well, what can we take out of it?
Yeah.
So you lose all the lovely balconies, you
Yeah.
lose this, you lose that, and you get half the building that you thought you was going to get.
Yeah.
And that's the situation.
Yeah.
So
But you've got lovely buildings.
we have
So how have you managed to do that? How have you avoided that situation?
direct delivery, cost overruns, unfortunately.
So it cost more than you thought it was going to
Yes.
build that.
Yeah.
But it was worth paying that price because you've got good quality.
I don't think it's ever worth paying the price. I actually think that we need to be better as well, which we're trying to be. And so our new process is, let's get the contractor in right at the beginning.
Right.
So which we call early contractor involvement,
Yeah.
which is the tender process. We'll put it out as a bid, like anything else we do. We say, right, this is what we want you to do. Look at the scheme, look at what we're trying to deliver in here. It's an open book for you. Here's the bit of land. We want to maximise the viability of the land. They will then come in with their architect. They will go through the process with us and they'll throw a few ideas together.
Yeah.
And then we'll look at the viability of different schemes.
Yeah.
Gives us a starting point.
Yeah.
We all know if we build this, it's going to be affordable and viable. All the items that we may have removed
Yeah.
back in Reba 3 when it went through planning and everything else, we take them out at the beginning
Okay.
because they're looking at the price point.
Yeah.
Right? So they're very commercial,
Yeah.
unlike the architect. They're
Yeah.
saying, right, okay, if you put in these particular concrete frames instead of stone, they're going to look very similar, but it's going to save you X amount of thousands of pounds.
Okay, so you're not saying you are going to get all the lovely bells and whistles. What you're saying is we're not going to promise all the lovely bells and whistles and then take them away.
Correct.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay.
However, what the contractors will do is they will come up with some very clever alternatives.
Okay.
All right. So it's going to look very, very similar.
Yeah.
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 So you walking past it, you're going to say, it's still a good building.
Yeah.
But we've got the price down. Right.
Yeah.
So this is where things have changed. And we've only done it fairly recently.
Yeah.
And it seems to be working.
Yeah.
And I have to say, I've got to give credit to contractors.
Which ones?
Murphy's,
Yep.
J. Murphy and Son,
Yep.
I would say, have been quite instrumental in my ear
Yeah.
about get us in early. And they're actually doing it for us on one scheme. There's other contractors working on different bits and pieces, which I'm not involved with, but I know Murphy's have done a good job on this so far.
Yeah.
But that's the early contractor. This is step one.
Yep.
All right. So they'll come back to us as, here's a scheme.
Yeah.
And we look at it as, it looks viable. We could actually run with this.
Yeah.
Now, we do a PCSA, which is the Pre-Construction Service Agreement,
Yeah.
which again is another tender process which goes out. From there, it's more of an in-depth investigation survey stage. What we're looking for there really is all of the right to light surveys and everything else, but specifically what's in the ground.
Okay. Yeah. Yeah.
All right,
So
because
pipes and wires and skeletons and
Exactly,
Yeah.
exactly that. Because these are the things that we found on so many projects
Yeah.
where an architect is not really looking underground. They're looking at what is this going to look like.
Yeah. Yeah.
Which is fine.
Yeah,
But, I mean, that's their job. Yeah. They want to build lovely places.
Yeah.
Whereas the contractor is going to know that I'm going to be building this. I'm going to be making sure there is nothing underground that's actually going to stop us doing it.
Yeah.
So we've got a really good PCSA period.
Yeah.
So that's step 2.
Okay.
Now we've got all this, we can go and build our scheme. So either the contractor's architect comes in again, or we can go out to tender for another architect with all of that information now that they've got. This is how we're going to build it.
Yeah.
This is the finishes that we're going to be using.
Yeah.
These are the hazards and risks that are underground.
Yeah.
Build a scheme, or draw up a scheme now that we can take to planning.
Yeah.
We take it to planning, get approval.
Yeah.
We then go out to tender again
Yeah.
to probably the same group of contractors again.
Yeah.
And obviously best bid that comes in will actually win that contract.
Right.
So there's no guarantee that the contractor who started the process with the early contractor involvement will actually be the contractor who's actually building it.
Yeah. So there's no jobs for the boys element to that, where they're designing it, so therefore they're gonna win the pitch to.
It can't be.
Yeah.
No,
yeah,
it's
yeah.
public money, and obviously we're the gatekeepers of that.
Yeah.
And we've got to do that properly. But I would say is that if like you were the contractor, and if you've actually done all this work on the project, you're going to know where the risks are and where the risks aren't. So, and me, if I'm a competitive contractor, I'm going to think, risk here, risk there, risk there. My price is going to be a lot higher.
Yeah.
So you should actually come in at the best price.
So you do get an advantage, which is worth the effort that you put in at the beginning.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay.
So the whole idea behind this and where it fits with the 1.5 million homes is that we're trying to push that price point down for direct delivery. If we can do that, then that's a win for all of us.
So that wraps up another episode of 1.5 Million New Homes, the Local Government Challenge, sponsored by Redloft and Waits. We're going to be back in a few days with another episode, and we look forward to seeing you then. In the meantime, if you like what you've seen, please do click like or subscribe. It really helps us. Thank you very much for watching.